The great ship Horizon's Reach glided silently through the dark sea of stars. It was one of humanity's first true colony ships, carrying explorers, scientists, and dreamers. The crew had traveled far from Earth, past familiar systems, into the uncharted Vega sector. Most of the crew were tired but excited. Every new planet, every signal, every discovery could change the story of mankind forever. Captain Marcus Hale stood on the command deck. He was a tall man in his 40s, known for his calm voice and strange sense of humor. Even in serious moments, he often joked, and that made the crew feel less afraid. He looked at the star map glowing before him. One world was marked with a red circle. It was a strange planet covered in endless twilight. No sun touched it directly, yet it glowed faintly like a dying ember. "Looks like a haunted house in space," Marcus said, smiling faintly. His crew laughed nervously, but none of them could deny it. The planet gave off signals, old and broken like whispers from long ago. Something intelligent had once lived there. The scientists wanted to study it. The explorers wanted to land. Some of the soldiers wanted to avoid it. But Marcus knew their mission: seek out new worlds, face the unknown, and never turn away from discovery. After a short debate, he gave the order. Horizon's Reach prepared for descent. As the ship entered the atmosphere, the crew felt uneasy. The skies were thick with gray clouds, and strange lightning flashed across the horizon. Below them stretched a land of black forests, sharp mountains, and ruined structures that looked like castles from old Earth legends. Towers of stone and metal rose into the mist, broken and silent like the bones of giants. The landing was rough, but the ship settled near the ruins of a vast fortress. The away team gathered: Marcus, 2 soldiers, a scientist, and a medic. They walked through the cracked gates and entered the silent halls. The air was heavy and cold. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, their meaning lost to time. The scientist whispered that the architecture was far older than any human civilization, and perhaps older than humanity itself. Marcus walked at the front, flashlight in hand. His heart beat faster, but he kept his voice light. "If a vampire jumps out at us, don't panic," he said. The others chuckled nervously, their breath misting in the cold air. The halls led them into a great chamber. Broken glass windows let in faint gray light. At the center stood a tall throne of black stone, carved with roses and sharp lines. And on that throne sat a figure. At first, they thought it was a statue. Pale skin, dark hair flowing like shadows, crimson eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The figure was tall, graceful, and motionless, but then it moved. Slowly, like waking from a long sleep, it turned its head toward them. The eyes locked onto Marcus. The soldiers raised their weapons instantly, fear rushing through them. But Marcus raised his hand, stopping them. Something about the figure was strange. It did not rush to attack. It simply stared at him, curious, almost sorrowful. The figure stood. It was a woman, or at least it looked like one. She was beautiful and terrifying, at the same time, with a presence that filled the entire hall. She stepped down from the throne with silent grace. When she spoke, her voice was soft but strong, like music carried on the wind. "You are not of my world," she said. "Who dares enter the ruins of Rose?" The name echoed in Marcus's ears. Rose. It was simple, human-sounding, yet heavy, with meaning. He swallowed, feeling the tension of his crew behind him. He knew one wrong move could bring disaster, so he did what he always did when fear tried to take hold, he joked. "I want you," Marcus said with a half-smile, his voice calm though his heart raced. "You, the alien vampire queen." For a moment, there was silence. The soldiers tensed. The scientist held her breath. The medic shifted nervously. Marcus wondered if his humor had finally failed him, but then the figure tilted her head, as if studying him deeply. Her crimson eyes glowed brighter. She stepped closer until she was only a few feet away. Then she whispered so quietly that only Marcus heard, "Then you shall have me." The word sent a chill through him, not of fear but of something far stranger. It was not a threat, not exactly a promise, but something in between, Her gaze did not break, and Marcus realized she was not just speaking to him. She was choosing him. The chamber seemed colder, darker, as if the ruins themselves were listening. Marcus stood tall, keeping his voice steady. "My name is Captain Marcus Hale. We come in peace." Rose smiled faintly, but it was not a human smile. It carried centuries of loneliness, sorrow, and secrets. "Peace," she whispered, a word forgotten in this place. The soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, though their hands still shook. The scientist's eyes were wide, filled with both terror and wonder. Marcus knew this was no ordinary encounter. This was not just first contact. This was something far deeper, something that would shape the fate of his people. He had joked, yes, but now he understood the weight of her words. "Then you shall have me." What did she mean? Why him? Why now? The silence stretched, heavy with questions. Outside, thunder rolled across the twilight sky, as if the planet itself had awakened. Marcus did not yet know the truth. He did not know of the curse that bound Rose, of the dangers that stalked in the shadows, of the war that waited just beyond the horizon. But in that moment, standing before the alien queen, he felt both fear and fascination. Humanity had reached into the stars, and the stars had whispered back, and so began the strange bond between a human captain and the last queen of an alien race. A bond born not of logic, but of something far more mysterious, something that would test the strength of humanity. The throne room was silent after Rose's strange whisper. Captain Marcus Hale felt the weight of her words pressing into his mind. His crew shifted nervously behind him, waiting for his command. But Marcus knew this was not a moment for weapons. It was a moment for listening. Rose stepped closer. Her movements were smooth, almost too perfect, like a shadow flowing across the floor. Her crimson eyes never left his. She spoke again, her voice soft but clear. "You wish to understand? Then I shall tell you the truth of my people." The crew glanced at one another. The scientist, Dr. Lin, opened her recorder. Every word could be history. Rose lifted her pale hand toward the walls. Symbols carved into the stone glowed faintly at her touch. Suddenly the chamber lit up with holographic images, scenes from another time. Marcus and his team watched in silence as they saw towering ships that sailed through space, carrying beings like Rose. They saw cities floating above oceans, towers reaching the stars. A mighty empire had once ruled this world. But then the images darkened. Flames, battles, and endless hunger filled the vision. "My kind," Rose said slowly, "we're not born as you see us now. Long ago our ancestors were like you, mortal, filled with hope and fear. But they sought to cheat death. They remade themselves with science and power. They turned to the stars for food, learning to drink the energy of suns. But it was not enough. When the stars grew too distant, they turned to living beings. They fed on plasma, the essence of blood. The images showed crowds of people falling, drained of life while the rulers grew stronger. Marcus felt a chill crawl down his spine. Rose lowered her hand. The visions faded, leaving only the dim glow of the ruins. Her voice trembled, though. She still stood tall. "We became what you would call vampires, not by choice but by design. A curse of our own making." The crew shifted uneasily. One soldier whispered, "Monsters." The word echoed in the vast chamber. Rose's crimson eyes flashed, but she did not strike. Instead, she looked at Marcus, waiting for his judgment. Marcus's voice was calm. "Your people destroyed themselves?" "Yes," Rose answered. "Civil wars, endless hunger. We drained worlds, we drained each other. Our empire fell. I alone remained bound by time, watching centuries pass. Alone, waiting in the ruins of what we once were." For the first time, Marcus saw not just a queen, but a lonely soul. Rose's voice softened further. "I have walked these halls for 1,000 years with no companion, no light. Do you see now why I said, "Then you shall have me"? You awoke me with your humor, your courage. I no longer wish to remain a ghost. The words touched something deep inside Marcus. He glanced back, at his crew. Dr. Lin looked fascinated, but the soldiers still held their rifles tight. They only saw danger. Marcus saw something else, a chance for understanding. He lowered his voice. If you are truly alone, why help us? Why not take from us as your people once did? Rose looked away, her expression almost human in its sadness. Because I learned, hunger does not fill the emptiness. Power does not end the silence. Only connection does. You speak with lightness, with humor. It is strange to me, but it warms the silence I have known. Perhaps that is why I do not wish to harm you. The crew was silent. No one expected such honesty. Suddenly the ground trembled. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling. The soldiers raised their weapons again. Rose turned sharply, her crimson eyes narrowing. They are coming, she whispered. Marcus frowned. Who? Rose's voice was cold now. Others of my kind. The whispered clans. They never died fully. They slumbered in the deep places of this world, waiting for prey. Your arrival has awakened them. Fear flashed across the crew's faces. Marcus stood firm. Are they like you? Rose shook her head slowly. No. They surrendered long ago, to hunger. They do not speak, they only feed. They will see you as nothing but vessels to D. The ruins were alive with whispers. Shadows moved just beyond the reach of the horizon's reach landing lights. The distant howls of the whispered clans echoed through the broken towers. Marcus Hale's heart pounded, but he kept his voice steady as he addressed his crew. Stay close, he said. We follow Rose. She knows this world better than any of us. Rose walked ahead, her presence almost glowing in the dim light. Marcus noticed how the soldiers shifted uneasily behind her, gripping rifles, unsure whether she was ally or predator. Rose sensed their tension but did not flinch. They do not wait, she whispered, her voice like silk brushing against steel. The whispered clans are patient hunters. They watch, they learn, they strike without mercy. We must move carefully. Marcus nodded. Then we plan. We fight only when necessary. As they moved through the crumbling halls, Rose explained more of her people's past. We were once a proud empire. We had knowledge beyond imagination. Technology to bend stars, to heal wounds instantly, to live for centuries. But we became greedy. The hunger consumed us. Those who gave in became the whispered clans. Those who resisted, like me, survived, alone, cursed by memory and time. Dr. Lin shivered. You survived because you didn't feed? Yes, Rose said simply. But survival is a curse when all you know is loss. I have walked through centuries with nothing but my own thoughts and regrets. Until now. Marcus glanced at her. He sensed the loneliness in her voice, the weight of countless years. You've been alone for centuries? Rose nodded. Until you arrived, Captain. Your presence, your humor, it was unexpected. You remind me that there is still life, still hope, even in darkness. Marcus swallowed. He had never felt so exposed by someone's gaze, so aware that this creature of legend was not only powerful, but also fragile. Then we help each other, he said. You help us survive these clans, and we help you break your curse if we can. Rose paused. A dangerous path, but I accept. Their fragile alliance formed in the shadows of that ruined throne room. Marcus felt the weight of it immediately. Trusting an alien predator was not a normal choice. Yet somehow it felt right. As they moved deeper into the ruins, Rose led them to a hidden chamber, one untouched by the decay above. The walls were lined with strange crystals that pulsed faintly with light. Marcus noticed the energy seemed to hum through the floor, through the walls, almost alive. These crystals are remnants of my people's power, Rose explained. They store memories, energy, even emotion. I can draw strength from them, but only partially. They are weak now, fractured by centuries of neglect. Marcus reached out to touch one. The moment his fingers brushed the crystal, a vision flashed before his eyes. Cities of light, people walking among towers taller than mountains, ships gliding silently through the sky. He saw armies, battles, laughter, sorrow. And at the center of it all, a figure in crimson, Rose herself, commanding with authority, but alone, always alone. He staggered back. I saw everything. You carried all this? Rose's crimson eyes softened. I remember. But memory is not enough. Memory cannot fill the void left by loss. Outside, the winds began to howl. The whispered clans were near, their presence growing stronger, almost tasting the human's fear. Marcus motioned for the soldiers to form a defensive circle. They could feel the ground tremble beneath them, hear the whispers of creatures moving in the shadows. Rose raised her hand. A faint red barrier shimmered into existence around them, a protective shield that flickered like a mirage. It is not enough to hold them for long, she warned. But it buys us time. Marcus nodded. Then we plan. We find a way to survive. And we find a way to end them. The crew followed Rose to a deeper passage, where the ruins seemed more intact. There they discovered remnants of ancient machines, long dormant. Rose touched them, her fingers glowing, faintly. These devices can amplify energy, she said. With them I can fight more effectively, but activating them requires coordination. I will need your help. Marcus stepped forward. Then we'll do it together. Humanity has always found strength in teamwork, even against impossible odds. Rose tilted her head, studying him. Your kind has spirit, strength of will. You do not fear the unknown as easily as I expected. That is refreshing. A flicker of movement caught Marcus's eye. From the shadows, a tall figure stepped forward, its eyes glowing like fire. The whispered clan had found them. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Marcus held up a hand. Let them come. We fight as one. Rose's presence shifted. Her energy surged, and the red glow around them intensified. Remember, she said, softly. I can shield you, but I cannot fight for you completely. You must act. We act together. The figure moved faster than any human could. It lunged at the group, but Rose extended her hand, and a wave of energy threw the creature backward, crashing into a wall. The soldiers fired, and Marcus charged, feeling adrenaline coursing through him. He realized something terrifying and exciting. He was no longer entirely human in this moment. He felt Rose's power mingling with his own determination. The battle was brief but intense. The whispered clan creature recovered and retreated into the darkness, its hiss echoing through the ruins. The crew was shaken but alive. Marcus glanced at Rose, who seemed unaffected, her expression unreadable. You see now, she said quietly, why an alliance is necessary. They will not stop, and they are many. Marcus nodded. We will survive. Together. For the first time since he met her, he felt something beyond curiosity, beyond fear. There was trust, and perhaps in some strange, impossible way, hope. Rose's crimson eyes lingered on him. You joke often, she said, her voice soft. Even in danger. Marcus smiled faintly. Humor is our weapon against fear. She inclined her head, a gesture almost human. Then perhaps you are not just a human captain, you are a friend, and a key to my survival. The ruins were quiet again, but the wind carried distant whispers, and shadows danced at the edges of vision. Marcus knew this fragile alliance would be tested. The whispered clans would return. The danger would grow. But he also knew something else. With Rose by his side, humanity might just have a chance to survive, and to triumph where others had failed. And in the silence, Marcus could almost hear her whisper again, faint and soft, like a promise carried by the wind. Then you shall have me, This time he understood it differently. Not a curse, not a threat, a choice. The shadows over the ruined planet grew longer. The whispers of the whispered clans carried on the cold wind, and Marcus Hale knew that the inevitable battle had come. His crew was tense, gripping weapons that suddenly felt fragile against creatures that were far beyond human strength. Yet he did not falter. He had chosen this path, and now he would see it through. Rose moved beside him, her crimson eyes gleaming like molten fire. The red barrier of energy flickered around the group, casting dancing shadows on the cracked stone walls. She did not speak much, only giving orders with quiet authority, guiding the humans through corridors and halls, leading them to positions of advantage. "They are near," she whispered, her voice calm but filled with urgency. "They have smelled your presence. Soon they will strike." Marcus nodded. "We are ready. Let them come." From the darkness, shapes began to emerge. Tall, thin, predatory forms with glowing eyes and jagged claws. The whispered clans were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their movements were swift, almost invisible in the dim light. The soldiers aimed their rifles, firing bursts of laser-like energy, but the creatures dodged easily. Rose raised her hands, and a wave of crimson energy pulsed outward. Several of the creatures were thrown back, their bodies slamming into stone walls. Yet more continued to advance, relentless and terrifying. Marcus took a deep breath. "Stick together. Move with her. Don't let them separate us." The soldiers and scientists fell into formation behind Rose, following her guidance. She moved like a commander born of centuries, weaving through the ruins with speed and grace. Her energy shield protected them, absorbing attacks and redirecting bursts of destructive force. Still, Marcus knew it would not last forever. The clans were many, and the ruins gave them advantage. He turned to Rose. "What do we do if they break through?" Rose's crimson eyes met his, unwavering. "We fight. Together. You are stronger than you know, Captain. Your spirit will guide them, and I will lend my strength." The first wave of creatures lunged at them. Marcus fired his rifle, taking down one, then another. Soldiers fell back, fighting to hold their ground. Rose unleashed a pulse of energy, sending dozens of attackers flying. The chamber shook from the force, dust raining from the ceiling. Suddenly, one of the creatures leapt directly at Marcus. Time seemed to slow as he raised his rifle. But before he could fire, Rose reached out, her hand glowing. A tendril of crimson energy wrapped around the creature, lifting it into the air before slamming it into the stone floor. Marcus felt the rush of power near him, almost like it wanted to merge with his own strength. "You feel it?" Rose asked, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Marcus nodded. "Yeah, I feel it." The connection was strange, almost dizzying. Energy flowed from Rose to him, enhancing his reflexes, his strength, even his courage. He realized that they could fight as one, human determination guided by alien power. The whispered clans pressed harder. One soldier screamed as a creature tore at his armor, dragging him into the shadows. Marcus acted without HE. The ruins were quiet after the battle, but the silence felt uneasy. Marcus Hale walked among his crew, checking for injuries. The soldiers were shaken but alive. The scientists and medic were exhausted. Yet none of them could ignore the strange energy lingering in the air or the presence of Rose, standing tall, her crimson eyes glowing softly in the dim light. Marcus approached her carefully. "Rose, your power, it saved us, but it changed something in me. I can feel your energy inside me." Rose's eyes softened. "Yes, Captain. Our bond deepened when we fought together. You survived not just because of your courage, but because I shared part of my essence with you. You are stronger now, but you are no longer entirely human." Marcus felt a shiver run through him. He could feel the energy coursing inside, enhancing his senses, his reflexes, even his thoughts. He realized he could anticipate movement before it happened, hear whispers far away, and feel emotions from his crew as if they were his own. Dr. Lin stepped forward, awe in her eyes. "Captain, this bond, it's incredible. You're linked to her, to Rose. This could change humanity's understanding of life itself." Marcus nodded, but unease remained. "I feel it. But at what cost? I don't know if I can stay human. If I can stay myself." Rose stepped closer, her gaze intense. "You will remain yourself, Marcus, but you will be something more. That is the choice you face now. You can embrace this bond, this power, and step beyond mortality, or you can sever it and remain human, leaving me behind." The soldiers murmured nervously. One of them asked, "Captain, if you stay, are you still one of us?" Marcus knew the question was more than loyalty. It was fear of change, fear of losing the person they had followed across the stars. He looked at his crew, at their weary, brave faces, and then he looked at Rose, whose presence had become both anchor and fire. I don't know if I can leave her," Marcus admitted quietly. "I don't know if I can return to being just human, knowing what she is, and what we could be together." Rose's crimson eyes softened further. "I do not ask you to decide now, but know this. The whispered clans will return, and if you remain linked to me, you can help protect your people. You can help shape the future." The crew looked uneasy. Battles had been won, but the war was far from over. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him, not just as captain, but as someone now connected to a being older and stronger than humanity itself. As they prepared to move deeper into the ruins, Rose paused. "I must warn you, others of my kind, those who became the whispered clans, are regrouping. They sense our bond, they will come stronger, hungrier, and they will not hesitate." Marcus swallowed. "Then we must prepare. Humanity survived one night. We can survive another. And with you, perhaps we can turn the tide." The group descended into a hidden chamber, where Rose showed ancient devices and crystals that pulsed with energy. "These are remnants of my people's power," she explained. "If we activate them, I can amplify your strength and mine, but it requires coordination, trust, and courage. Are you willing?" Marcus nodded. "We don't have a choice. Trust is all we have." Together, humans and alien began to prepare. Marcus felt the power inside him pulse, syncing with Rose's own. It was strange, dizzying, and exhilarating, all at once. He could sense the strength of his crew, their fear, their hope, their determination, and he could feel Rose's centuries of experience, wisdom, and sorrow flowing into him. For the first time, he understood something profound. Humanity's strength was not just in technology, weapons, or numbers. It was in courage, in empathy, and in connection. And now, that connection extended beyond species. Night fell over the ruins, and the whispered clans began to stir again. The shadows lengthened, and distant cries filled the air. Marcus's soldiers gripped their weapons, the tension almost unbearable. Rose stepped forward, crimson eyes gleaming. "They will test us tonight. But together we can endure. You must act with me. Think with me. Only then will we survive." Marcus nodded. "We fight together. Always." The first wave appeared, moving silently through the shadows. Marcus felt Rose's power surge within him. Reflexes sharpened, thoughts became clearer, senses heightened. He moved like lightning, striking down attackers before they could reach his crew. The soldiers followed his lead, their courage bolstered by the alien energy surrounding them. Rose's energy flowed through the chamber, pulsing like a heartbeat. She raised her hands, sending waves of power that shattered the attackers' ranks. Marcus felt the bond deepen, almost like they were breathing together, thinking together, fighting as one. Yet the battle was not without cost. The whispered clans adapted quickly, striking from new angles using cunning and speed that even the humans could barely follow. Marcus realized the war would not end with a single night. Every victory was temporary. Every retreat only delayed the inevitable. During a brief lull, Marcus turned to Rose. "We're changing, aren't we? Both of us." She nodded slowly. "Yes. You are becoming something more. And I am no longer alone. That is the difference between survival and life. You remind me what it is to live, not just exist." Marcus swallowed, feeling the weight and the wonder of her words. He looked at his crew, at the soldiers who still trusted him, at the scientist who recorded every moment, and at Rose, whose presence was both terrifying and comforting. "I don't know what comes next," he admitted, "but I know we face it together, humanity and you." Rose's crimson eyes softened. "Then you will have me, Marcus. In battle, in life, in whatever comes next. Together." The whispers of the clans grew louder, the shadows closing in. Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, feeling the strange surge of power within him. He knew the choice he faced was profound: remain human, or embrace something beyond humanity, linked to Rose forever. But in that moment, with the ruins around them and the clans approaching, Marcus realized the answer. He would not face this alone. He would not turn away from the bond that had formed in the shadows, in battle, and in trust. And as the first of the whispered clans lunged from the darkness, Marcus moved forward with Rose at his side, his heart steady, his courage absolute. Together, they would face the night, and together, they would shape the future. And in the quiet between battles, he could almost hear her whisper again, soft but clear, like a promise carried on the wind. "Then you shall have me." This time, Marcus understood. It was not a curse. It was a choice. The ruins of the ancient castle were alive with tension. Shadows twisted across the stone walls as the remaining whispered clans emerged from the darkness. Their numbers were greater than anyone had imagined, and their eyes glowed with hunger and cunning. Marcus Hale tightened his grip on his rifle, feeling the surge of energy flowing through him from Rose. Rose stood beside him, her crimson eyes blazing. Her hands glowed faintly as she drew power from the ancient crystals embedded in the walls. The connection between them was strong now. Marcus could feel her thoughts, her intent, her focus. He knew that together they were stronger than the clans could imagine. "They will not stop," Rose whispered, her voice steady. "They will try to take everything, but we will not fail." Marcus nodded. "We fight together. No retreat, no surrender." The first of the clans lunged from the shadows. Their speed was blinding, but Marcus's reflexes were sharper than ever. He moved like lightning, striking with precise blows that combined his human strength and the alien energy flowing through him. Soldiers followed his lead, firing in coordinated bursts. Rose extended her hands, and a wave of crimson energy swept across the battlefield. Dozens of the creatures were thrown back, crashing into walls and rubble. Yet more pressed forward, relentless, hungry, unyielding. A massive warlord emerged, taller and stronger than the others. Its glowing eyes locked onto Marcus and Rose, and it advanced with terrifying speed. Marcus felt a flicker of fear, but it was brief. Rose's energy surged within him, steadying his mind, sharpening his senses, and bolstering his courage. "We end this together," Marcus shouted. Rose nodded. "Yes. Trust in me, as I trust in you." The warlord struck first, claws slicing through the air. Marcus dodged and countered, striking at the creature with a strength that no human alone could possess. Rose channeled her power, amplifying his blows, each strike cracking stone and sending shockwaves through the ruins. The battle was fierce. Every motion felt heightened, every sense sharpened. Marcus could feel the bond between him and Rose grow stronger with every second. Their movements were synchronized, almost like a single being with two bodies. Together, they pushed the warlord back, and finally, with a combined strike of human determination and alien power, the creature fell. The remaining clans faltered, seeing their leader defeated. They hesitated, then retreated into the shadows, their hisses echoing in the ruins. The battle was over for now. Marcus lowered his rifle, breathing heavily, and turned to Rose. We did it, he said, awe in his voice. Rose's crimson eyes softened, and she allowed herself a small, almost human smile. Yes, together we did. The crew emerged from the ruins, weary but alive. Soldiers looked at Marcus with respect, understanding that his bond with Rose had turned the tide. Scientists recorded everything, knowing that humanity had witnessed something extraordinary. Marcus approached Rose, the weight of what had happened settling over him. This bond, it saved us. But what comes next? Can we survive if they return? Rose Saint,